Athenian democracy of the 5th century BC is a unique historical phenomenon that cannot be judged by modern standards. For us, democracy means above all the protection of individual rights. For an Athenian, democracy was a way of life, one where the personal was inseparable from the political, and where the freedom of one was secured by the deliberate exclusion of another. To understand it fully, we must resist the temptation to see Athens through a modern lens. What we find there is not a flawed version of what we have today. It is something genuinely different, a system that was simultaneously more radical and more brutal than anything most people imagine. Democracy did not appear overnight. It was forged in the fire of social conflict between the hereditary aristocracy and the people, the demos. Solon and the shaking off of burdens, 594 BC. At the beginning of the 6th century, Athens stood on the edge of civil war. Small farmers were falling into debt bondage, and debt stones were planted in their fields as markers of their obligations. Solon, chosen as mediator between the classes, made a revolutionary move, the sysaxia, or shaking off of burdens. He did not merely cancel existing debts. He abolished the very possibility of pledging one's own body as collateral. From that moment, personal freedom became an inalienable attribute of Athenian citizenship. It was the first brick in the democratic foundation. Cleisthenes and the geometry of power, 508 BC. If Solon provided the economic foundation, Cleisthenes built the administrative skeleton. He reorganized Attica into 10 tribes, phylae, each carefully constructed to include residents from the coast, the city, and the inland regions. This deliberate mixing of rich and poor shattered the influence of the old noble clans, who had derived their power from controlling compact geographic territories. Cleisthenes also introduced ostracism, a procedure by which any citizen deemed too dangerous to the state could be voted into exile for 10 years, without trial and without loss of property. It transformed political rivalry from a blood sport into something approaching a civilized competition. Added. Brief explanation of how ostracism worked in practice, since many viewers may not know the details. Pericles and the Golden Age. Under Pericles, democracy reached its peak. His most consequential reform was the introduction of mistophoria, payment for holding public office. Before this, a poor man could not afford to sit on a jury or serve on the city council, he had fields to tend and a family to feed. By paying citizens from the public treasury for their civic participation, Pericles made democracy genuinely accessible, not just in theory, but in daily life. Unlike modern systems, where we elect professional managers to govern on our behalf, Athens operated on a fundamentally different premise: every citizen was considered capable of governing the state directly. The People's Assembly, Ecclesia. The assembly was the supreme authority in Athens. It met 40 times a year on the rocky slope of the Nix Hill, open to the sky. To pass the most important decisions, a minimum quorum of 6,000 citizens was required. 6,000 people gathered on a hillside in the Mediterranean sun, debating war, finance, and the fate of the city. Any citizen could speak. Any citizen could challenge a proposed law. The agenda was open. The assembly decided on declarations of war, the construction of naval fleets, the allocation of public funds, and the details of religious festivals. There was no filter between the citizen and the decision. The Council of 500, Bull. Since 6,000 people cannot effectively manage a city on a daily basis, the Council of 500 served as the executive engine. Its members were chosen by lot, not elected, for a term of 1 year. They prepared the agenda for the assembly and handled the continuous business of running the city. Every citizen had a realistic chance of serving on the council at least once in his lifetime, and for one day, when his tribe held the rotating presidency, he effectively led the Athenian state. Added, clarification of the rotating presidency system, which illustrates just how radical the participation was. The people's courts, Hiliaea. Athenian juries were enormous by any standard. Panels of 501 or even 1,501 jurors were common. The sheer scale was deliberate, it made bribery practically impossible. There were no professional lawyers. Every man defended himself, or asked a friend to help him speak. This necessity gave birth to one of Athens' greatest cultural exports, the art of rhetoric. The ability to persuade a crowd became the most powerful skill a citizen could possess. If we map Athenian society as a pyramid, the democratic plateau occupied only its very peak. Below it, holding the entire structure in place, were groups with no voice at all. Slavery as the fuel of freedom. For an Athenian citizen to spend his days on the Knicks or in the courts, someone else had to do the work. Athens held between 80,000 and 150,000 enslaved people, roughly 1/3 of the total population. They labored in the silver mines of Laurion under conditions of extraordinary brutality, on farms, and in workshops. Without this vast reservoir of unpaid labor, Athenian democracy would have had no leisure time in which to exist. This is not a footnote to the story of Athenian democracy. It is its foundation. The status of women. A woman in Athens was, legally speaking, a permanent minor. She could not own property, could not speak in court, and in respectable households was not expected to appear in public unaccompanied. Her world was bounded by the gynekon, the women's quarters of the house. She had no vote, no political voice, and no legal standing of her own. Athenian democracy was, without qualification, a men's club. The metics, permanent outsiders. Metics were free foreigners who lived and worked in Athens. They formed much of the city's merchant class and contributed enormously to its intellectual life. Aristotle himself was a metic. Despite paying special taxes and serving in the military, they had no political rights whatsoever. Citizenship was passed down only through blood, from two citizen parents, and the path to acquiring it was effectively closed. Added, the detail about Aristotle as a metic, it powerfully illustrates the paradox of exclusion. It would be a mistake to romanticize Athens. Many of the greatest minds of the era, Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, regarded democracy with deep suspicion, and their concerns were not without foundation. The tyranny of the majority. The assembly could be impulsive, emotional, and easily manipulated. Under the influence of skilled demagogues, it voted to execute successful generals after military victories, on the grounds that their success had not been sufficient. It launched the catastrophic Sicilian expedition of 415 BC, one of the greatest strategic disasters in ancient history, driven by enthusiasm and ambition rather than calculation. The death of Socrates. The most famous and damning example of democracy's dark side was the trial and execution of Socrates in 399 BC. Athens' greatest philosopher was condemned to death by a jury of his fellow citizens, not for violence or crime, but because his questions made people uncomfortable. The man who had spent his life teaching Athenians to think more clearly was killed by majority vote. It remains one of history's most sobering reminders that popular opinion and justice are not the same thing. Democratic imperialism. Inside its own walls, Athens preached equality. Outside them, it practiced something closer to empire. The funds that built the Parthenon and maintained the Athenian fleet came largely from tribute extracted from allied city-states. When those allies attempted to leave the Delian League, Athens suppressed them by force. The city that invented the word democratia was, to much of the Greek world, simply the most powerful bully in the room. Added. The Delian League context, which is essential for understanding the full picture. More than 2,000 years after the Athenian experiment ended, three of its ideas remain at the core of political thought everywhere. Politics belongs to everyone. Athens removed governance from the exclusive possession of kings and priests and placed it, however imperfectly, in the hands of ordinary people. That idea has never entirely disappeared. The power of words. In Athens, rhetoric and logic replaced the sword as the primary instruments of power. The ability to reason and persuade became more valuable than the ability to fight. That shift echoes in every parliament and courtroom in the world today. Civic dignity. Athens established the radical notion that a person's standing in society should be determined by their contribution to the community, not by the family they were born into. It was an incomplete and deeply contradictory idea. But it was a beginning. We use representative democracy today because our nations are too large for hillside assemblies. We elect professionals to handle the routine. But the Athenian ideal, that every citizen bears personal responsibility for the fate of their country, remains the standard against which every democracy measures itself. Athens had a concept called atimia, the loss of civic honor. A citizen who behaved dishonorably, or who simply refused to participate in the life of the city, could be stripped of his right to speak in the assembly. Politics was considered the highest form of human activity. To be excluded from it was, for a Greek, a kind of civil death. Which raises a question worth sitting with: if we introduced an Athenian lottery today, selecting government members at random from the population, the way we select jury members, would our societies become more just? Or would we simply be trading one set of problems for another? The Athenians tried it. The results were extraordinary, contradictory, and deeply human. Much like democracy itself.